Hello everyone. Today I'll be watching a video by creator That Saves America titled Academic Decay from Hoax Papers to Race Mobs. Okay, let's start. I haven't watched it before, so I'll be watching it with you first time.
You have to understand the game being played in academia today. Exhibit A, the Grievance Studies Affair.
I was in Portland, teaching at Portland State, which was truly an inconceivable ideological sinkhole.
This is Peter Boghossian,
Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing your evening.
a philosopher and longtime professor focused on teaching critical thinking, pedagogy, and the Socratic method. In other words, an expert in the tools of debate and inquiry. And he knows the threat critical social justice plays to debate and free thought firsthand.
I was told I was committing microaggressions. I was told that questioning was a microaggression. Asking for evidence for policies that were being institutionalized was a microaggression. Asking for evidence of a microaggression is itself a microaggression. So I started to realize that there was a problem. Where are my colleagues getting their ideas? These ideas are totally unhinged from reality.
Boghossian, along with writer and fellow guest of the show James Lindsay, found themselves more and more disgruntled by this thought-terminating ideology taking over academia, and the gobbledygook that passed for serious research. Then came the breaking point. This actual academic paper published in 2016. Glaciers, Gender and Science, a feminist glaciology framework for global environmental change research. The feminist glaciology framework generates robust analysis of gender, power, and epistemologies in dynamic social ecological systems, thereby leading to more just and equitable science and human ice interactions.
Peter called me and was like, this is it. It's too far. If they'll publish this, they'll publish anything. We're writing an academic hoax.
Their hoax paper, of course, needed a catchy title.
The conceptual penis is a social construct.
I know the story. Well, I don't know what should I comment on here. Like, it's kind of self-explanatory. Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I wasn't doing social sciences, so I didn't have that negative experience myself. So, but maybe I'll be able to add something later because there are still problems.
Boghossian and Lindsay made their paper ridiculous, but right on the edge of believable, for woke academia that is, with arguments like this.
Anatomical penises are not the male sexual organ. They are instead a social construct that makes men braggadocious and macho.
It basically argues, among other things, that penises are responsible for climate change.
They submitted their hoax, and it actually got published.
This ends up in a small, slightly predatory academic journal called Cogent Social Sciences. Peter and I spiked the football. We proved gender studies will publish anything bogus.
Boghossian and Lindsay didn't hide what they'd done, and the hoax became known.
Of course, the usual suspects lost their minds and said, this paper doesn't...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's indeed, there could be no better way to characterize the state of this so-called science. Like, it's this system is rotten to its core. It covers the universities, research institutions, journals, and and part of government bureaucracies. So yeah, there is absolutely no intent to figure out reality anymore, to establish the truth. In fact, if you look at the origins of this called woke ideology, the truth doesn't matter. Everyone has its own truth. It's like relative, starting from like Kant and Hegel, which undermined reason and your ability to establish truth objectively. That's what the roots of these movements are.
prove what you think it does. This is a low-level journal. You only did one. You got to do multiple papers. And I'm like, all right, this is awesome. Let's just do exactly what they've told us to do.
That's when Bogosian and Lindsay, with the help of Helen Pluckrose, really went for it. The Grievance Studies Affair was born.
We wrote 20 intentionally broken, completely crazy, often vile, reprehensible papers, and then we just started getting them in exactly the kind of journals that they told us.
These papers are truly nuts and not safe for work or mixed company, so you have been warned. The titles include An Ethnography of Restaurant Masculinity, in other words, the Hooters paper. Who are they to judge? Overcoming anthropometry? Somebody said, I don't even know what these words are. Okay. Overcoming anthropometry and a framework for fat bodybuilding.
Yeah, also, I mean, it's kind of important to note that even outside of this kind of social sciences, like the system kind of rewards sensationalism. So if you publish like a, study with a catchy title, controversial, I mean, the journals will be attracted to it. So this is partially what's happening here. However, of course, like in social sciences, like the content is like usually way worse, right?
Okay. Going in through... Okay, hold on. Going in through the back door, challenging straight male homohysteria and transphobia through receptive, penetrative sex toy use.
We sent them to, Gender, Place, and Culture, the highest feminist geography journal, Hypatia, the highest feminist philosophy journal, Sex Roles, which is a very prominent interdisciplinary journal about sex roles, Feminist Journal, Feminist Theory, and so on.
Unbelievably, some of these papers, including all of the insane ones you just heard, were accepted and published, including the most notorious one of all, Human Reactions to Culture and Queer Performativity at Urban Dog Parks in Portland, Oregon.
It got published. It won an award for excellence. And the Wall Street Journal started investigating, find out we're not real. And so this paper ends up getting us exposed. It was too over the top. It was too crazy.
In the end, 7 of their papers were accepted. 4 were published. But rape culture in dog parks was a bridge too far. So why did I tell you this whole long story? First of all, it's hilarious. But second, it's actually a powerful example of Peter and James understanding the people they oppose enough to masquerade as them convincingly. I doubt the editors of these journals could do the reverse, and that, frankly, says a lot. But more importantly, the Grievance Studies Affair provides an important lesson about institutional capture and the academic echo chamber.
The papers were actually not nonsense. They were vile and despicable, but they played into the moral orthodoxy. The purpose of the journals is to forward certain conclusions that then affect public policy.
This is the opposite of debate or the pursuit of truth. And when you operate in an environment that...
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, in a sense, yes, the idea is to create the body of the scientific papers which support certain consensus, what's called. And this notion of consensus will then be used for policymaking. You need to have a body of papers to bundle them into reviews, to write opinion pieces on them. And this will then be presented, as a case for policymaking. That's how it works. I mean, I actually recorded a video on this topic myself before.
That stifles debate and silences critics, you end up in a spiral of radicalization. Even though these papers sound totally insane to normal people, to the people at these journals, they sounded and actually read as if they were real, serious research. It seems entirely plausible that the crazy to us seems perfectly reasonable to them. People in academia, college and high school, have a tendency to go along with the crowd whenever crazy ideas start to take hold, saying yes, yes, yes to basically everything.
every so often somebody says no, like me, and all hell breaks loose because that person has to be made an example of in order that everybody else down the line says yes.
Enter Brett Weinstein. He was and is one of the most famous victims of woke campus madness. In 2017, Brett and his wife Heather were two of the most popular teachers at Evergreen State College.
On May 23rd of 2017 at 9:30 in the morning, a group of 50 students, not one of which had I ever met before, streamed into my classroom, accusing me of racism, demanding that I apologize and resign or be fired.
What was Brett's great offense, you might ask? Dropping a racial slur? Some egregious act of hate? Hardly. Evergreen had a tradition called a Day of Absence. This was an agreed upon day in which minority students and faculty didn't come to campus as a way to demonstrate their contributions to the school. Well, that year, an administrator named Rashida Love suggested that instead, white people should stay away from campus on that day. Brett didn't particularly like that.
So I did the one thing that I could do, which was send an email to the all staff and faculty list that said, this is offensive. It's one thing to absent yourself. It's another thing to tell other people to go away. I plan to come to campus. You can take that as a protest. It, of course, got pushed back on email, as if I had said something terrible. And this became the narrative justification for targeting me.
We come here as students against campus racism and against anti-blackness on campus.
Brett's email led to the infamous mob of students coming to his classroom to confront him, and it led to all hell breaking loose on the campus.
Day of absence has been here longer than I have. I have never protested it until the idea, no.
Yeah, I noticed it a lot. Like, they don't try to argue with you. They just start shouting something at you. Like, whenever you start talking. Like, I've seen it a lot in these situations. These people don't know how to conduct a proper debate. I seen the video. I think it was somebody came to debate like abortions with them, and they were just screaming at him, making like noises which is hard to be associated with humans. Like it was very weird, like wild animal noises. It's kind of scary. Yeah.
Was not concerned about their desire to see me exit the college. I had the equivalent of tenure. I was very popular, and frankly, they looked to me like a bunch of confused college students, and my job was to unconfuse college students. So I started to have a discussion with them. I tried to get them to engage me, to tell me what it was that they thought I was doing, what they saw about other racism on campus, and I wanted to try to persuade them that they misunderstood things.
Will you listen to me? Yeah. Okay. No, not maybe, please.
Now, if you decide to shut it.
No!
Okay. I am committed to equity. I am committed, I believe, that if anyone on this field, I happen to disagree with other folks in this campus about the way there.
This actually enraged them even more. And I am fortunate that they filmed the entire interaction and were so proud of what they were doing that they uploaded it.
Listen, do you understand? History could pivot in this hallway right now.
When people looked at those videos, it caused a kind of a ripple in the matrix, as it were. People saw a straight white male professor being accused of racism and not doing what you would expect in 2017, which is backing down and apologizing.
I'm not an unreasonable person. I'm not uninterested. I'm not uninformed about history. I know the implications of these things. I have arrived where I've arrived from a different route. I've arrived there through academic study. I know why racism happens.
We live racism. We don't have to study it to understand it. We live it every day.
I didn't sound like a racist, so it became an interesting story to people. and they started to tune in.
You asked me a question. I would like to answer.
Hey, ho, ho! Red Marcy has got to go! Hey, ho, ho!
The campus actually descended from that protest into a state of riot that persisted for an entire week.
Listen to this absolutely brainwashed student.
We would like Brett to be fired, but that isn't happening. The administration is refusing to take action. They're choosing to protect this white, cis male professor over its students.
And the spineless president of Evergreen, who actually defended the mob.
I think their concerns are legitimate. They're articulating ideas that have to do with race, ethnicity, power, privilege, and we're taking a look at it.
In the end, Brett and his wife Heather resigned from Evergreen, sued the school, and ended up with a large settlement. Brett, for his part, thinks the administration of Evergreen didn't like him from the start, and that's part of why he wasn't treated better. But Brett, in his typical fashion, is philosophical about it all.
My suspicion is, if you imagine for a second that you've got these students who are convinced that they are part of an evil society that has targeted them to effectively be enslaved, and that there is a resistance movement and that they have joined it. If you think that that's what's going on, and then you hear, but there's this guy, Brett Weinstein, he doesn't get it, it would be very natural to just wish something terrible would happen to this person. They just simply wrongly understood that I was the obstacle to some otherwise attainable utopia.
Utopia. That is what drives so much of this, and the siren song, frankly, of communism. I'm using that word, communism. That is what we are seeing on campuses. Students being brainwashed by discredited, diabolical ideas that lead to very, very dark places.
I look around at the campuses of today and I see people who appear to have learnt nothing from the 20th century. People behaving like they're red guards in Mao's Cultural Revolution, apparently unaware that that's what they resemble.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it in some discussions, like during tea times. Yeah, people don't know much even say about Soviet Union. Like for many of them, yes, they don't know how bad it turned out to be. However, also many have arguments like they just did it wrong and it wasn't real communism, that's kind of thing. You probably know it better than me, and you probably hear it a lot.
The Red Guard are a scary but appropriate analogy. This was a mass movement of students formed in the 1960s by the communist monster Mao Zedong when he ruled China. The Red Guard, mostly high school and college kids, was created to defend the purity of Mao's brutal totalitarian ideology, to be warriors in his cultural revolution, and to enforce conformity to his utopian vision. They specifically were directed to attack the four olds: old ideas, old culture, old customs, and old habits. These Red Guard destroyed millions of books, millions of pieces of art, and thousands of cultural sites. And they killed people, lots and lots of people. Among the many targeted, a special focus was placed on intellectuals and teachers. Any of this sound familiar? It sounds suspiciously like branding benign and heady middle-aged white academics as racist.
I don't care what happens to Brett anymore. He can go and be racist and be a piece of shit wherever he wants to do that.
Wanting to destroy old ideas like capitalism and the family itself.
So when we talk about family abolition, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the abolition of that economic unit.
Tearing down statues of our founding fathers because they owned slaves, even though slavery was widespread across the whole planet. Going back into old books and removing offensive language. Insisting that people can change their gender, and attacking anyone who dare disagree with this radical idea as hateful. Free speech and open debate were non-existent in Mao's China. This was about submission and fear. Where there was no room for dissent or dialogue, force filled the void. Millions of people died during this cultural revolution. Nobody really knows how many. When Mao unleashed his student mobs to destroy dissent, he specifically gave instructions. Do not use police force, no exception, to intervene or suppress the movement of revolutionary students. If you think I'm being hyperbolic by comparing Mao's nightmare to modern America, here's Brett Weinstein describing what happened when the mobs came for him.
In that state of riot, the president of the college forbid the campus police from intervening. In fact, he ordered them to lock themselves in their police station, and it descended into literal anarchy.
So you don't need to watch that door, watch all the doors, watch the windows, you need to keep eyes on
It
it.
essentially sounded like you're being held hostage there. If you were to go to the bathroom, you had to go with 2 escorts. Is that true? That's what the students felt was true.
Bands of students were patrolling the campus, stopping traffic on a public road that passed through campus. At one point, I was riding my bike and I saw a bunch of people waiting who I thought I recognized from the protests and riots the day before. And that spooked me. And I said to the police chief, I said, I must be imagining this, but I think there were some people waiting for me at the entrance to campus. She said, I don't think you're imagining that. I think they are looking for you. What's more, we can't protect you. We've been ordered not to act. And you're not safe anywhere in town on your bicycle, and you're not safe on campus at all. I could barely wrap my mind around it. Even still, I have a hard time imagining it, though it clearly happened, and I'm fortunate that it was so well documented that no one could doubt it. And it leaves me with a question, which is, I know they were looking for me. Do they know what they were planning to do if they had found me?
I'm not saying if they'd found him, it would have ended like it did for so many during the Cultural Revolution. On the other hand, look at what happened to Charlie Kirk. Look at the response online to that murder.
I've been saying we need to bring back political assassinations. I don't feel bad, and I don't think that everyone deserves the right to free speech. I think some people should be afraid to express their opinion in public.
I'm surprised that y'all didn't get rid of him sooner. And I'm surprised that you guys aren't getting rid of more people.
You don't have to like violence, but I'm confused as to how you thought the revolution was going to be magically bloodless.
Thousands of people willing to put their names and faces out into the world for everyone, including their families and employers, to see.
Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck.
Celebrating political assassination, and millions of people liking, sharing, and cheering them on. We're closer to domination by the Red Guard than you or I want to believe. And here's the thing about Mao's Red Guard. Eventually, they got too crazy even for him. In 1968, he called in the army to stop the movement of students that he himself had unleashed. They were, in a sense, destroyed by the very authoritarian power they fought for. I've revisited these stories here, from the insanity of the Grievance Studies affair, to Brett Weinstein's surreal targeting at Evergreen, to Mao's horrific cultural revolution. Not to ratchet up the heat in our culture war, but as a warning. Without speech and open debate, here's what happens. Entire disciplines like those exposed in the Grievance Studies affair become ideologically captured, utterly disconnected from reality, and dangerously radical. Leading journals and whole universities become jokes. No one involved knows it, and if they do know it, they're too afraid to say the emperor has no clothes. The joke becomes less funny when these ideas get baked into the cake, universally accepted and taught to our kids. And this is the fertile ground where noxious, parasitic ideas grow. Ideas like speech is violence. That's what happened at Evergreen. That's what happened in a more extreme version to Charlie Kirk. And it's what could happen over and over again if we don't tear this rotten tree out by the root. If you like this clip, You should.
Yeah, very good video. Very well articulated. I'm not sure I have anything to add. Yeah, I don't know. Seems like just very well done. I would only add maybe a little bit on the question what's happening next, because he kind of envisioned that we'll go down, the Mao path and we'll have this communistic revolution, but that's not necessarily what can happen. We could go down, the Hitler path, where we have, as a counter movement rising up and becoming tyrannical. That's also possible, but none of the scenarios are good. And I'm not sure this trend is reversible. It's not clear, like, how to kind of bring people back to normal conversation and debate, and start thinking about how the country should work, instead of what's my opinion, what's their opinion, and how to stop them from pushing the ideology. Because it seems like both sides are getting more and more violent. I see kind of more and more hatred. You see with this ICE protests, right? Somebody's getting shot, and well, one side calling it fascist, other side basically justifying killing communists no matter what. I mean, at least some of them, right? Instead of figuring out even what actually happened on the ground. So yeah, it seems like people care less and less about actual individual rights, and what happens in reality, and more about destroying the other side. I don't know. There's just no good outcome here, prognosis for the future.